Hello, friends. Welcome to the 15th episode of the Schoolyard Podcast, brought to you by School Specialty. I'm your host, Nancy Chung, a fun-loving teacher and content creator, also known as Fancy Nancy in Fifth on social media, and I'm thrilled that you're here. A special shout out to School Specialty, who offers essential educational supplies and complete learning environment solutions to help you transform more than classrooms. School Specialty is excited to introduce Schoolyard Connect, a new site where educators can go to find helpful resources, including blogs, webinars, case studies, sample lesson plans, and more. Go to the site that's made for educators like you, schoolspecialty.com/schoolyard-connect. This is the Schoolyard Podcast, a podcast by educators for educators where the magic of learning unfolds. Career and technical education, also known as CTE, isn't just about textbooks and lectures. It's the secret sauce for turning passions into lifelong learners. CTE is the roller coaster ride of education, propelling students into the heart of exciting trades and industries. It's not about memorizing facts, it's about mastering skills that make you the go-to expert. Picture classrooms as bustling workshops where creativity and curiosity fuel a journey of discovery. CTE isn't just a stepping stone to a job, it's a launch pad to a career. So buckle up and get ready for an episode that will take you on an educational joyride that transforms students into trailblazers of tomorrow as we talk to Henri Crockett. Henri Crockett is the co-founder and president of the Crockett Foundation, a South Florida-based nonprofit organization that serves the youth through educational programs with the mission to help build character, develop leaders, and improve the community one child at a time. A Florida State University graduate, he also played in the NFL for 7 years, notably starting in Super Bowl 33 with the Atlanta Falcons. The Crockett Foundation believes that kids deserve every opportunity to explore, engage, and experience the changing world around them. Using programs focused around coding and science technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, also known as STEAM, the Crockett Foundation supports kids as they prepare for the jobs of the future. Welcome to the Schoolyard, Henri.
Well, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Before we begin, I just want to say I was introduced to you as a big teddy bear. So I'm looking at you, I'm like, oh, he does look like a very friendly teddy bear.
Yeah.
Would you tell us a little bit about yourself and the Henri Crockett Foundation?
Yeah, so born and raised in Pompano Beach. Went to high school at Ely High School. 1992, got a scholarship to Florida State University, where I spent 4.5 years there, and got drafted in 1997 to the Atlanta Falcons in the 4th round. And I remember getting drafted there, and I was like, oh my God, I only lost 3 games in 5 years at Florida State, and I go to a team that's lost 15 games last year. And only won like one in 15. So, and I just made my mind up that, okay, we're gonna turn this thing around. So it was great to be able to win the last 6 games in my rookie year, and then transferred into the next year. We won 14 games, 14-2, made it to the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, lost to Denver Broncos, John Elway's last game, but it was just an exciting feat, to jumpstart your really career in my first 2 years. I thought I'd be in the Super Bowl every year. Never made it back, but it was an amazing ride. But throughout that process, I had a lot of people that helped me along the way, and I wanted to pay them back by paying it forward. And that's how the Crockett Foundation was started. I actually started in Atlanta in 1997. It was called the Team 94. Once I retired, I decided I wanted to go into full time. So I brought it back home to where it all started. And I just wanted to pay it forward because I had a lot of mentors in the neighborhood I lived in. And what I found that was pretty interesting throughout that process was it wasn't so much about reading and math and tutoring. It was more about getting me to live outside my community. And I thought that was the really biggest difference maker between me and my high school friends, that I was I was exposed to so many different things from my mentors and get me to do all these things that some of the kids would call corny or oh, that's not cool. And one thing I realized when you start to be exposed to different careers, you start to create a separation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the things that you think about, your conversations start to change, and things that you're interested in starts to change. And it's what it does, it starts to push you farther and farther away from the friends that you grew up in, the ones that have been exposed.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew at that point, I wanted to go back and kind of model my life, the experiences I had. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what if I can go into these middle school kids at a middle school level? Because that's that area where no one wants to deal with middle
Oh
school
my
because
gosh, yes.
they're coming into that, space where they're starting to feel themselves and they can articulate how they feel and they
Mm-hmm.
think they're grown but I was always had a great relationship for my football camps.
Mm-hmm.
So I figure if I can get in that area, I can make that transition for them as they go into the high school now to catapult them into who they want to be and what they want to do the
Mm-hmm.
rest of their life. And I want to take a little bit of football approach because kids that play football, that want to go to college, play football,
Mm-hmm.
they're so laser focused. Everything they do is built around playing football and getting a scholarship. Like they go to the different combines, they go to different camps, their
Mm-hmm.
workouts. Everything is geared towards that.
Yeah.
So what if we take that same approach about trying to get kids to identify who they want to be, and we expose them to as many careers as possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
And and I thought it was awesome because that was my life, right? So I just started exposing anything that they didn't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I put it on the list for them to do,
Wow.
to get
Uh-huh.
to make them uncomfortable, start getting them to think outside the box. And that's how the
Mm-hmm.
Crockett Foundation was born. It was born sheer off of me just paying it forward from the mentors that poured into my life. But
Mm-hmm.
more importantly, creating different opportunities, exposing different careers that they probably would have never known about,
Right. Uh-huh.
and see what sticks. So
Yeah. Wow. I teach at a K-8 school, so I'm around
yeah.
a lot of middle schoolers. And you mentioned that you have a 12-year-old, almost a 13-year-old son,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah,
I mean, I know they're trying different identities out every day,
right.
yet they're so impressionable, so moldable. So the
Yeah.
fact that you're catching them at that vital stage in their life, I think
Mhm.
that's amazing.
And it's
Now,
pretty
could
cool.
you tell us, yeah, yeah. Could you tell us a little bit about some of the programs that are available to the kids in the Crockett Foundation?
So we have our first program is it's called a Youth Force program, and that's really about like child development. You work with them a little bit of the math and math and science. You include the arts into it. Now you're really trying to get them to explore, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I kind of put a twist on it. So I start introducing them to careers, and I do it by bringing in individuals that look like them
Mm-hmm.
and let them speak and tell their stories. And so what
Mm-hmm.
happens is you start to find kids that start like they might be interested in that. I never heard of that, but you know what? Especially with my girls, like, man, if she could did it, I can do it. I
Mm-hmm.
want to do that. I don't know what it is, but once they start to research, they start looking into it. So
Mm-hmm.
what we're doing now, we're starting to plant seeds in these
Mm-hmm.
kids' heads and about all the different careers. If you can start thinking, getting them at an early age, starting to think about who I am, what I want to do, what I want to be, now you're starting to create a trajectory that's far outside their neighborhood, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
now what started happening, they started research, how do I get there? And
Mm-hmm.
that's where the fun part starts, because they start asking questions, they're curious. And
Right.
once you get a kid curious, I mean, the world opens up.
Right.
And that's what we're really trying to do. We're trying to spark that interest in the kids in
Mm-hmm.
the youth force. Then we go to our CIA, it's called coding program.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Coding and Academics.
Mm-hmm.
When we mix a little bit of coding with the academics, we find kids that are like, they're pretty bright, but they haven't quite yet figured out, like, I know I can be good with my hands, and I really don't talk to them. I don't really talk to that many kids. I'm kind of in my own lane.
Mm-hmm.
So what we try to do is we try to get those kids and we try to get them to color outside the box, find that creativity that they have deep down inside, because they have it. And
Mm-hmm.
they're pretty innovative. And so with those, it's a little bit of academic folks because those kids are like high achievers, so they're really into their books. But we try to ease in the coding because it's just another skill that they can utilize, for the future.
Right.
And then we have the Crockett Explorers. And
Mm-hmm.
this is all about creativity and innovative. And, these are geeks, you know what I mean? Like we always talk about, we have programs for kids that are doing bad in school, or the mom is arrested, the kid don't know where the next meal coming from. But no
Wow.
one has programs for those kids that maybe have the same situation at home, but they're making a conscious effort to come to school. They're
Mm-hmm.
really smart. They're really into computers. Like these are these innovative, creative kids that
Mm-hmm.
just need to be put on a platform. It's no place for them to go.
Mm-hmm.
So we wanted to create a atmosphere and a place for them to go and geek out. We always say
Mm-hmm.
geek out,
Yeah.
and for them to have a safe space.
Uh-huh.
And those kids are really, like, they are unbelievable. Uh,
Wow.
they are our big thought leaders that this world is lucky to have.
Mm-hmm.
We're just trying to foster all that talent and just trying to push it out into the world and let them be as creative and innovative as possible. And let
Mm-hmm.
them know that whatever they lay down and think about, and they can create. They can create. And then now we just went into high school. It's called like Crockett Scholar School. We have all these programs to the middle school
Mm-hmm.
kids, and
Mm-hmm.
then there's no real warm handoff to high school. So all our kids that go to high school, they're like, "No, Mr. Crockett, wish we had a
What
program like."
now? Yeah. Uh-huh.
So now we went into high school and we started building innovation centers, like
Mm-hmm.
centralized to the high schools and middle schools where the kids can walk to.
Wow. Uh-huh.
And that's where school specialty comes in. Like, I remember being
Oh.
Sue-Ann at this,
Uh-huh.
uh, they brought our superintendent Broward County brought school specialty down. They partnered with them to do this $800,000 project at Stranahan High School. And the
Wow.
on
Uh-huh.
committee chipped in 25. Everybody chipped in for these media makers and stuff they was doing. They did an amazing job.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember sitting next to Suanna at that time. She had just started. She was talking about how she switched careers and all these things,
Mm-hmm.
schools
Mm-hmm.
things. And she had all these big goals, ideas. And what about you? So I started telling her what I do. I said, and we're into coding. And I just tell about my big audacious goals. One day I want to open an innovation lab. I want to do all these things. I'm looking for a
Uh-huh.
location right now. So she said, so whenever you guys find it, we'll outfit it.
Wow.
So
Uh-huh.
that's how we met. And
Wow.
I reached back out
Because
to her, and
yeah.
Jeremy helped me.
Well,
And
Suan has been on our podcast twice, and I just
yeah,
got to witness one of the art room transformations
right.
in Houston recently, and that was
Yeah,
amazing. So I
that
could
was
only
amazing.
imagine how exciting the innovation lab was.
Yep, so it's amazing. And she made it happen and was so
Uh-huh.
excited. And we're on our second one now. Like, so now we're opening
Wow.
more and more innovation lab. And it just a luck of whim. I was standing next to Swen and able just to
Mhm.
tell my story and talk about these crazy goals that I had, and to be able to be standing next to the person that can make it happen. But
Yeah. Uh-huh.
how often does that happen, right?
Right. I mean, it's meant to be. As you're telling me the story, I'm
I'm
getting like chills up and down my arms.
telling you, man.
So
So
exciting.
I
Uh-huh.
remember going back home telling my wife, "You won't believe this," you know what I mean? Like,
Wow. Yeah.
I'm so pumped, so it was pretty cool.
Yeah, the fact that you can give back to these kids, like I love that. And as you were talking about all these careers and all these jobs that these kids don't know about, I mean, constantly, I mean, think about now, there are all these jobs that didn't even exist when I was younger, like, or even 10 years ago, right? And so the fact that you're exposing these kids to the possibilities, and you're bringing people that are in the field already. And I like how you said, like people that look like them, right? So kids are seeing the representation of themselves, like how they could be in the future. That's awesome.
More
No,
important.
I love the focus on STEM. I know some people say STEM, but I love the art component and adding it, making it STEAM. And I used to coach robotics, and we're always trying to recruit more girls because we need more girls in STEAM
So
too.
important. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's an area that less than 3%,
Mm-hmm.
whether no matter what your color are,
Mm-hmm.
know,
Yeah.
you're a minority. And so we
Mm-hmm.
have to try to get our girls excited about, coding, and
Mm-hmm.
we're trying to, create jobs that haven't been created yet, you know what I mean?
Right.
And
Exactly. Exactly.
it's gonna come from these great ideas that you guys come up with.
Uh-huh.
We're always trying to challenge them and push the envelope in,
Right.
and that's what innovation now is all about. Like, some great idea is gonna come out
Yeah.
of here, right?
Yeah.
Really,
It's to spark the creativity. Uh-huh. And I love how you keep on putting the word creativity into this too, because coding, people are thinking it's just like sitting in front of the computer, just programming and just doing all of the very like the science and math only type of thing. But in one of our early episodes, we had an episode on esports, and I thought it was all about just video games, but I didn't think about like video game law. I didn't think about like all the creative, like the artistic aspect of like the video game design. There's so many different jobs that can come from that. So
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
I think it's over like 60 different careers you can go into in
It's
esports.
amazing.
Part of our innovation lab, we have esports department is where there too. The kids
Uh,
come in there.
uh-huh.
And a lot of times, like, especially with our parents, we have to really explain it to them because they think the kids playing video games all day.
Right.
You're just gonna actually earn college degrees. Now it's a sport now. You can get a
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
and I always try to tell the kids now, even with our coding, like, if you can learn this skill, like there's no job, there's no business that you can't work in. Like
Mm-hmm.
it always gonna need a coder. I say,
Mm-hmm.
even when you go to McDonald's, don't look at McDonald's as a fast food restaurant. Look at it as a tech company. Because look at somebody creates all those screens. Like now you go
Mm-hmm.
there, like there's no one waiting on you at the counter. You got to go on the screen and punch everything in digitally.
Right.
Somebody has to create that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so,
Yeah.
and and then even in esports, there's so many different, like the shoutcasting, the person that's doing the announcing. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they go into a career of, sports casting or, broadcasting, all these different kind of things. So
Mm-hmm.
many good, cool things can come out of it, the behind the scenes. Because the biggest thing I try and tell our kids is we want to be creators and not consumers. Like,
Mm-hmm.
gotta get to the point where we're creating and not consuming. Because right now we spend a lot of money on the games, we go buy things, but
Mm-hmm.
somebody can make it. Why not
Right.
you?
Exactly.
So that's the biggest thing that we push with the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Channel that creativity, and have a certain amount of discipline.
Mm-hmm.
And once you develop the skill, now we got to practice good habits and
Mm-hmm.
really focus on the kids creating good habits. And doing what you got to do so you can do what you want to do. All
Right.
these cool things, and so far the kids are really taking to it.
Mm-hmm.
So we're excited about it. We love it.
Yeah. And so not only just coming up with like what they want to do, but you're actually giving them guidance
Right.
and showing them what the steps are. Like you need to do this and then you need to do this and giving them all the support.
Yeah.
Now thinking back to the early days of developing the Crockett Foundation, do you have any, can you share, I'm sure you have lots and lots of stories. Can you share any heartwarming moments that encapsulates like the essence of the impact that your program has on the students or the community?
We a lot in the areas that we work in a lot of areas that's underserved, and you get a chance to see these kids, and a lot of times you spend so much time with them, you get to know them, and you don't really know like the background, but if you pay
Mm-hmm.
attention and you spend time, you start to pick up on certain things. And I remember this one little big kid, man. He's a little, really big kid. I think Gerald Mincy, and I will see someone pick him up every day. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I asked our teacher, Miss Robinson, why is he always leaving early? And they were like, well, he's in the foster care, and
Mm-hmm.
the grandmother's trying to get him and all these things, so they would pick him up. So like we found a way to work with the system to allow Miss Robinson to be a legal guardian, my our teacher,
Oh,
step in
wow.
legal
Mm-hmm.
guardian for him, so she could stay with the grandparents because the grandma was older, and they was weary that she wouldn't have the assistance.
Mm-hmm.
So the mom got on her feet, and so all those things worked out. And he wanted to play football. Got him into a nice little private school. He ended up like wasn't that it was a project, but he was a big kid.
Mm-hmm.
2 years, 3 years, he won the best lineman in all of the country. Ended up getting a scholarship at the University of Florida. He's at University of Tennessee now, starting,
Wow.
and
Mm-hmm.
he's gonna get drafted in a couple of years. Maybe this year coming
Wow.
next year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those things where it's like to see these kids, like to work with them and see their dreams come true.
Mm-hmm.
And not only those just one of many. Then you have some that the kids, they come so far, and they go through a lot of things at home, and to get them the idea of going to college, and then they don't know how they're going to pay for college, and for us to be able to come up with resources and find partners to help them
Mm-hmm.
go to college and, and actually get away from home and doing things they never thought they'd be able to do. We have
Mm-hmm.
a lot of those great stories. But then you see the kids that come back, that
Mm-hmm.
intern, like they're able to tell their story and how the program benefits
Oh.
them.
Uh-huh.
And, and it's pretty cool to sit back and listen to them because a lot of times they was like, man, I didn't know you guys gonna make it, and them to tell that story, like, and to tell that if you just stick with it, if you
Mm-hmm.
just trust what they say
Mm-hmm.
and you trust what they're trying to do, a lot of times you agree with it, but it's all for your good. And to hear them tell those stories, those always
Mm-hmm.
heartwarming. And then to hear parents, some of the parents come back and
Mm-hmm.
they talk about, especially in the coding, and
Mm-hmm.
the parents talk about how like the kid came out of his shell because we were speaking a language that he could speak. A
Right,
lot of
right.
times around these kids, they're in their shell because a lot of kids good athletes, they play sports, they're not the cool kid.
Mm-hmm.
But in that arena where they're coding and esports and shoutcasting and doing all these cool things, like they're pretty cool in
They're
that
the
world.
experts. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right. So to see them,
Um,
evolve in that sense and come out of their shell, now they can stand in front of anyone and talk,
mhm.
and they can talk to the cool kids and not feel inferior because you know what, you got your thing over there, we got our thing over here.
Yeah, yeah, what they're passionate about.
Right.
Okay, so I heard about an alumni event that you had recently and
Yeah.
something about like a full ride to something. Would you tell us about
Yeah.
that?
So, I started thinking about kids because now, ever since we started the program, no one want to deal with middle school kids. Now all of a sudden everybody's flocking to middle school
Uh-huh.
and no one want to deal with the high schools. And it was like, well, they got too much going on. They thought about shutting down the high school programs. So I was like, we really have to reimagine how we work with high school kids because they do have stuff going on. They got cars, they got girlfriend, boyfriends,
Mm-hmm.
they got a life. They
Yeah,
don't have to be here,
jobs
right?
sometimes. Yeah, yeah.
So I just started thinking about what do these kids really need. So I started looking at these kids and I said, what are their biggest fear? I started with that because I always try to take this approach where you zoom in and you zoom out. Like
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times when you zoom in on a kid, you might find things that you don't want to deal with. And a lot of people don't want to deal with that. So a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times when you're trying to start a program, you got to zoom in first and figure out like what are the real needs. And
Mm-hmm.
the first thing that came out, man, they're like, man, why would I even think about going to college? How do I pay for college? I don't have no money to pay for college. My mom ain't got no money to pay for college.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought that was the biggest threat, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what if I can take that threat away
Mm-hmm.
and would you want to go to college? Of
Mm-hmm.
course. Who wouldn't?
Wow.
All
Uh-huh.
right, cool. So I worked really hard. I found a really good organization called the Matt and Lisa Allen Foundation. And I'm really good friends with Matt and Lisa, family friends. And, he just said he was willing to, he believed in us and he wanted to really invest in education. And he chose us. And it was a blessing to be able to have the seed money. So we took that seed money, and when it met with Florida Prepaid said they would match.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, it was easier to go talk to the United Ways to say, hey, listen, we got this program going on, and we're gonna be utilizing all these tools of mental health. And,
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna making these kids employable into like college tours and job tours, and we're gonna make sure that they're qualified to go to college. They got the right amount of community service hours, and
Mm-hmm.
so we just built everything around the student. What I mean, the things that they consider threats, like how do I pay? We could give them a full ride, but then we have this thing now here called Bright Futures, and where if you score a certain amount, you have all these different criteria, you get free money for school, and all
Wow.
depending on how you score is how much you get. 75% of your scholarship, or 25% of 100.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times, like the kids in underserved communities, they don't know about those things. So we
Mm-hmm.
built the program around knowing about this, knowing about filling out the FAFSA, knowing how many volunteer hours you need to qualify for this money that's being
Mm-hmm.
untapped. Less than 7% of the kids in underserved communities are taking advantage of this money that was built for them.
Mm-hmm.
And the ones that are taking advantage of are the ones that's coming from families where, really don't need it, but the money is there.
Mm-hmm.
And their parents are doctors, attorneys, and they can understand the process. But a lot
Yeah.
of times, kids or parents don't speak the language, and or they just don't know.
They just don't know. Yeah.
We build around that. But then the other thing we want to include exposure. You know, so much goes on in your state. We want to spend every 2 months, we want to spend a day or two in that part of the state. You learn about it, you know, learn
Mm-hmm.
about what's going on in your own backyard. And, you know, from that point, make sure the SATs, ACT, their letters, they have the volunteer hours. And with the volunteer hours, they have to, as a group, have to come up with their project
Mm-hmm.
that they're going to give back to the community. Because I
Mm-hmm.
always say a lot of times you receive so much. Where's the give back? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, when you take so much, you gotta give back as well, you know. So, you know, we've been fortunate enough to instill that in those kids. And from that standpoint, now we start talking about career readiness. Now, you know, we partner with different organizations to give kids internships, paid internships. So now we're touching on all cylinders, the educational part, you know, the workforce, exposure, and community. You know, when you pull all those things together, you got Crockett Scholars. So we partner with the principals. We had the principals hand select each kid. This is not a program that you can apply for. It's
Uh-huh.
it's based off what have you done for me lately. When the
Uh-huh.
principals pay attention to you,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
you say you're my choice, the principal's choice. You're gonna be a part of
Mm-hmm.
this program.
Okay.
And so we inducted them. You know,
Mm-hmm.
first induction, we coded them. We had a coding. We coded them that, you know, you go to medical school, they get the coding process.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
We had the coding process for them. They
Wow.
see their jackets, and officially was that first day.
Uh-huh.
And it's officially our first cohort of kids. You know, so we're
Uh-huh.
excited about the venture they're about to go on, and the impact that they're going to make, not only in their community but in this world as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow, that's amazing. I bet you love seeing these like ear to ear smiles and like the light bulbs that light up and
I mean, listen, some of the kids thought it was fake. They didn't think it was real. Like, you really gonna
yeah,
pay for our college?
yeah.
If you meet all the measurements and you do all the things you're supposed to do,
Uh-huh.
go to college at no cost.
That's
They
amazing.
signed it, like they just couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
So I said to the kids, I'm excited about the journey you're about to go on. And there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people in this room that don't know you guys, that want to see you win, that are
Mm-hmm.
willing
Mm-hmm.
to invest in you.
Yeah.
And when someone is willing to invest in you, and when you're chosen, you have
Mm-hmm.
to stand up. Like, you have to show up. You have to stand. You have to answer the bell.
Mm-hmm.
And we found 39 kids that's willing to answer the bell. So we're excited.
Wow. Wow. Now, is there any part of this program that you wish you had when you were young, when you were a kid?
You know, it's funny, right? A lot of it is based on one of my good friends, Whistling John, Dr. Whistling John. I
Mm-hmm.
remember I was having a conversation with her, and this helped spark how we move with this Crockett Scholars, because the thing that she made evident to me. So when I was coming out of high school, I had over 100 colleges trying to recruit me. So
Wow. Uh-huh.
the process that I went through, like, I never applied to go to school. I had
Mm-hmm.
schools knocking down my door. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember talking to Wilson, and Wilson's like one of my tight friends. We've been friends since sixth grade, and
Mm-hmm.
she's a principal in Atlanta, Georgia. And she remember saying, Henry, listen, you know, man, I just tell you how I got to college, you know. She was like, she went to this Delta event with one of her friends, and they
Mm-hmm.
offered her a scholarship to Alabama State.
Wow. Uh-huh.
You know, so I always wonder how you got to Alabama State. You know, her and our other friend, Catherine Burgess, who grew up in my same neighborhood, they were really good friends. They both went there. She said, Henry, man, you know, my mom never took me to college. I caught a ride to college with my friend.
Mm-hmm.
Catherine, Wesley used to work at Little Caesars. She had a job transferred up to Alabama State. She
Mm-hmm.
had a job transfer. She got a job at Little Caesars, and she worked. She went to school, and her mom never had an opportunity to really come see her until she graduated. You know what I mean? So it's one
Wow.
of the things, like, and she made me realize it's more Whistling Johns in this world than Henry Crockett's, right?
Of course. Yeah.
And so I started thinking, like, wow, like, how many kids? Because she's of Haitian descent, first
Mm-hmm.
generation. Mom
Mm-hmm.
don't speak the language, so she's the
Yeah.
interpreter. Like, you know, so I'm
Yeah.
thinking to myself, like, how many Whistling Johns do I have in our
Mm-hmm.
program? Because
Mm-hmm.
we have a lot of Haitian kids in our program where the kids are the ones doing all the communicating.
Yeah.
And how many of those kids in high school that when they go off to college, their mom can't go to college, that they're going up there, they're working, they're doing all these things. and I start, and no one knows how to apply for school.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we make sure that the Winston Johns of the world have a fair shake, right?
Yeah.
Or the playing field is level for, who is now a Dr. Winston John. Like, she did it on
Mm-hmm.
her own, she figured it out. But now she has the blueprint how to do it. Like, how do we
Mm-hmm.
take her story, which
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure over 75% of our kids have the same story. Like, how do we impart that in? So it's not so much about Henri Crockett, it's more about
Mm-hmm.
the Dr. Winston Johns of the world. How do we get them to become Dr. Winston John or Dr. So
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Got the blueprint. So let's work with them. Let's take away these barriers. Let's have college tours where the parents can go on these college tours with them. So at least they'll know where their baby's going to school at. I mean, I might
Mm-hmm.
not, you know, be able to go if they want for this program. But at least now you can have that parent can have a conversation with their daughter or son and say, I felt more and more safe with you at this school instead of that school. Like, they can
Mm-hmm.
be part of the process. How do we bring them into this process? So um that's how it was all started, man. And that's why I'm so passionate about it, because, you know, it's so many kids in this program that deserve a shot. It's so many kids in the program that
Mm-hmm.
don't have a clue how they're gonna get there.
Yeah.
But if we can use Dr. Winston John's story and say, okay, you know, this is how she did it, and if she did, you can too, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And let's just lay it out for them, and all the barriers that's in front of them, we just knock them down. School is going to be paid for. You're going to have the
Mm-hmm.
right amount of volunteer hours to make sure you take advantage of the bright futures. You're going to make sure that you sign up for the SAT, ACT, and you
Mm-hmm.
make sure your letter, your essay that you got to write, it's going to be on point. You're going
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that you fill out the FAFSA correctly, and that you
Yeah.
have somebody to work with your mom or your dad that can be able to speak to them in their language so they understand what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
All these things are what a lot of these families deal with on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes it's not just all about the school is the easy part. There's these other challenges where a lot of these kids are first generation college students.
Yeah. Yeah. The fact that these alumni and people who have been been part of your program are coming back to intern and coming back to give back to, the organization that they were part of, that they benefited from, that's amazing. And people like you and all of your donor friends who are helping these students, I don't know, I'm very inspired.
Yeah, I get so excited. I'm saying that's why it's so easy for my feet hit the ground every day. I'm so excited, and I
Hmm.
walk in and see these kids, and I'm just excited by the opportunity that's in front of them. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and because I really believe, I just want when they lay their head down at night and they have these big audacious dreams that
Hmm.
they really can attain them. Like,
Hmm.
I don't want to be a cliche like we dream big. No, I really want when they lay out and dream, I want them to really believe that they can attain that goal.
Hmm.
I think we have an opportunity. So,
Yeah.
and it
It,
just
it,
takes someone just doing the lead work and leveling the playing field, willing to go to bat for them.
right. I bet we could surely use a Henri Crockett Foundation like all through the nation, like
Yeah,
bring
I'm
it all
telling
the way
you.
across. Well, Henry, we have a segment on our podcast called Tag Your It, where our listeners write in with a question that our guest answers. And I love this question. I feel like this is perfect for you. The question comes from Dave H. And the question is, if you can say one thing to your younger self, maybe at the age of students you work with or at any age, what is something that you would tell yourself?
Challenge everything. Be curious. Question everything. Like,
Okay. Do you have anyone who like inspired you? Do you have a role model or someone who really inspired you to be the person that you are today?
oh yeah, yeah. Me, my mom, shoot, man.
Oh.
My mom was just this interesting, but she was tough. She raised three boys by herself, so she was always tough. But like, she found a way. Like,
Uh-huh.
I always say, man, my mom worked two jobs, and I never heard this lady complain.
Oh,
And so a
wow.
lot of times
Mhm.
when I would get tired and I get frustrated and I would feel like, you know, I would just hate doing what I'm doing. I say, you know what? My mom never complained, so do it like I love it.
Wow.
And
Hmm.
then through her, I learned that was true discipline. True discipline was just doing what you hate, but doing it like you love it.
Mm.
And it inspired me to do that. Like, so I would always take that approach, like things that like, I really dislike or, probably was good for me, but then I didn't believe that it was good for me,
Mm-hmm.
I would, not want to do it.
Well, Henri, thank you so much for being such an amazing guest on the Schoolyard Podcast. And thank you so much for all the amazing works that you're doing with these young
Thank
kids.
you so much. I had a great time. Time show flies
Yay.
by when you're having fun, right?
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Schoolyard Podcast. Remember to pack your curiosity and meet us back in the schoolyard for our next episode. Tag, you're it. Now it's your turn to write in with a question, which we will answer here on the Schoolyard Podcast for our segment called Tag, You're It. Tag us on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, or Twitter at School Specialty and hashtag Schoolyard Tag You're It with a question that you want answered. One question will be selected per episode to be answered by our featured guest and myself. If your question is chosen to be answered on the podcast, we'll send you a very special Schoolyard Podcast t-shirt. Class dismissed.